A few days ago, we understood that the TPS was ending for certain groups. And TPS is temporary protected status, okay? And that's ending for groups such as the Haitian community. That was the big news. And that means in September, many of those Haitians will have to go back. But temporary protected status is also ending for Venezuelans. Now, Venezuelans are pretty interesting as a group because many of them have been housed in Chicago, especially in the black sectors of Chicago, especially on the south side, okay? And so not only have some of these Venezuelans, not all of them, come into the south side, but many of them have started gangs from TDA, which is the Trade des Aragua, something like that, and even infiltrating the black gangs. And the black gangs have become somewhat fearful.
We went out to some of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods to meet with current and former gang members who tell us that TDA first showed up when the city opened up migrant shelters in these areas, and that now the Venezuelans are trying to move in on territories controlled by the city's black gangs, setting up their own operations and actively recruiting kids and teens in the neighborhood.
It's only a matter of time before things escalate because they moving in our neighborhoods. It's different areas that different guys, I guess, different so-called organizations or gangs had, and they moving on their blocks and standing out there and trying to emulate them or doing the same thing that they doing.
Now, also, we got to understand that not all Venezuelans are criminals. And that's important to know because some are business owners, some work hard. Many of them probably work hard, okay? And another thing that happened is in the North Austin community, I believe that's on the west side of Chicago, this actually happened.
You ready?
It was a homecoming they had only dreamed of until today. Today, the Gomez family officially welcomed friends to their new home in North Austin. Gabriel Gomez tells us it's his dream. This is what he wanted for his children. It is the first home for this family of four, and it is the first time they have lived in anything bigger than one bedroom for 8 years.
As we can see, this individual here was able to get a home, okay, in North Austin. I believe it's on the west side of Chicago. This is where Brandon Johnson says that he's technically from or was raised there. And a church that found them gifted them this house. And many African Americans were upset because, well, listen, we've been here for 20, 30 years and we have not been able to get any kind of home for ourselves. Yet these people who've only been here for 8 years have been able to get a home. And this brings it to the larger discussion of really why there is a beef, in my honest opinion, between the Venezuelans or the Hispanic community and the blacks.
So when we talk about communities being pitted against each other, we're talking about like the migrant community and the African American community, right? Mm-hmm. We're standing in a community right now, Cabrini Green, where so many promises was made, for the rebuild, and that hasn't happened. And the storyline behind why it hasn't happened has been there is not enough resources, there is not enough funding. And then years later, you have an influx of migrants, right, coming to Chicago, and then resources appear out of nowhere.
In my honest opinion, this is what really is the kicker, all right? Now, you have the Cabrini Greens projects, which is historical in the city of Chicago, has been shut down. But some of this housing in Chicago that has been dilapidated for years, the city is telling the people, look, we understand that this is inside of the black community, and if it was redeveloped or open for a community center or something like that, it would bring more income. And then also it would bring more resources to the black community. But on one end, you're telling the black community that you don't have the money to do this. Then once the migrant crisis comes up and you have illegal migrants coming to the city, you're finding money all of a sudden to renovate these properties. And not only are you renovating these properties, you're being able to house these people and feed them, okay? You're feeding them. So let's just go back and think about it. We had an individual that got a house, and then also funds that should have been invested into the black community are now being found and spent for migrants. What do you tell the black community at that particular point? You are telling the black community that we don't like you and you don't matter, and we want to replace you. We want to replace you. We want to replace you with bigger gang members. We want to replace you with Hispanics, okay? And so once that happens, let me explain, okay? Once that situation goes on to that level, nobody will care about honest Venezuelans anymore in the Black community. Now, I've seen videos, Venezuelans cleaning up in the city of Chicago in projects. I've seen them doing that, trying to beautify the city of Chicago, and that won't get talked about. And when you look at Venezuelans that are coming there, working hard, doing their thing, and now they're afraid to go to their own church recitals. To the Black community, nobody will care about that, even if that person didn't receive handouts. Let me give you an example. I live in Uganda, okay? If there was some level of handouts given to refugees or given to Black Americans, and like I said, in Ghana, there was a situation where several people got what we call free land, okay, the Cebu project. If you're African American and you did not get free land, but you're from the tribe that did get the free land, and that somehow took away or was taken away from the opportunities from Ghanaians, then what do you think the attitude is going to be towards you? The attitude is going to be like, you shouldn't be here, you're one of them. So the animosity is going to come towards you in general. And I'm going to tell you something, right? When I lived in Poland, I understood one thing. I was different as an African American from a Nigerian or a Zimbabwean or somebody from Ivory Coast. But do you want to know something? To the Polish person, they can't distinguish who's different. They know that you're Black, so you are African, okay? And so as a Black person, hashtag FBA, African American, when we see a Venezuelan, okay, most of us are gonna look at anybody that is Hispanic, Colombian, Mexican, Guatemalan, Central America, El Salvadorian, Panamanian, anybody. It could even be Brazilian, Portuguese speaking Hispanics, or Latin American. It won't matter, because we're gonna look at them and say, we're gonna lump you in there, and you are there getting the stuff that we should get, okay? Now, here's where the issue comes in. Somebody will suggest, well, we have an issue with them, and as Blacks, and they have an issue with them, right? So let's go ahead on and come together and solve that issue. And there's another thing that's already been tried and it failed, okay? That's what Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers was doing in the late 60s and trying to do the Black and Brown coalition. So you got a lot of upset people with a bad taste in their mouth towards Hispanics already. Because again, when people feel like, you know what, when the Blacks was down bad and they were experiencing what they was experiencing, the Hispanics didn't care. So now we empathize with you, sympathize for you. But hey, look, if ICE come and pick you up, let them come and take you, because you shouldn't be there anyway. You need to be gone. Then let's classify all of y'all as violent. I'm not saying me, I'm just saying people. Yeah, you see, they bring in big guns. They taking over apartments in Aurora. Oh no, y'all housing criminals? Now everybody gonna become a criminal. Everybody gonna be stereotyped, okay? And this is a resource battle from people who feel like they've been here for a long time and have contributed, especially in a segregated city like Chicago, versus people who've not been here long. And you had Venezuela was a upcoming country with oil and everything. Y'all messed it up, right? So no, we can't support you. You gotta go. Because once you go over here and you start getting your kids and y'all start doing something, y'all look down on us. And as long as you have a mayor like Brandon Johnson, who is okay with this narrative, using the Blacks to, get the votes. And that's one thing I'm seeing out here. A lot of Black politicians. I hear so many of them talking about Black and Brown coalition, our Black and Brown people. Diddy used to say that. Tiffany Henry was saying that. Chicago, Brandon Johnson saying that. And as if we're like together, and it's not the truth. You have too many Black politicians willing to throw Blacks under the bus for immigrants. Even a lot of Hispanic immigrants is tired of some Venezuelans out there, right? And this is getting bad. It's getting ugly, and this beef is going to get worse. And I think that at this particular time, if it continues to go this way, it's going to have to get to the point where you're going to get bloodshed on either side. Because what else am I going to do if you coming from a foreign country, you recruiting gang members, you on my block, I might be a gang member or I might not be a gang member, but now you terrorizing where I live at. You shouldn't be there anyway. What's the next best solution that you're going to have toward an individual like that? We got to be honest and got to be serious. So this is what I'm seeing, and this is what's happening. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Usher Jackson, back at it again with another episode of King Ghana. I'm out.